Have you ever heard of the second mountain? Imagine for a moment that your life is like a great journey towards a high peak. At the beginning, your motivation is clear. You seek success, recognition, fame, and of course, happiness. You climb the first mountain, reach the top and say to yourself, "I've made it," but something's missing, isn't it? As you reach the summit of the first mountain, something unexpected happens. You realize that what seemed like a dream come true isn't really what you thought it would be. What once brought you satisfaction now seems hollow, almost meaningless. You've achieved everything the world told you would be the key to happiness, but still, now what? This is where the dark truth of the second mountain comes in, a profound concept explored by renowned thinker David Brooks. Have you ever wondered why so many people, even with all they've accomplished, still feel lost or unfulfilled? Why do so many reach the top of the first mountain and never even attempt the climb of the second? The truth is that the second mountain is not an easy journey. It demands something deeper from us than simply material success or social recognition. It demands sacrifice, humility, and a new kind of outlook on life and what really matters most. People never reach it because often they don't even know that a second mountain exists. And that's exactly what we're going to explore today. Why, despite having all the tools to reach the second mountain, do we so often choose to remain on the first? What prevents us from taking this leap to a more meaningful and purposeful life? Stay with us, and we will understand, based on the studies of David Brooks, how this journey can transform not only your life, but also the society in which we live. Are you ready to discover the true essence of the second mountain? But before taking the first step, are you willing to face the dark truth of why most of us never get there? The emptiness of the first mountain, the search for success and recognition. The first mountain, according to David Brooks, is the phase of life in which we are most focused on external achievements, status, recognition, material goods, and public success. It is the stage in which we follow the conventions of society, being guided by a pre-established script of what is considered successful. Society, from a very early age, teaches us that happiness is linked to professional achievement, the acquisition of material goods, fame, and power. We live in an era where success is constantly measured by the amount of money we have, the positions we hold, the likes we get on social media, and the labels we carry, such as the model of car we drive or the brand of clothing we wear. We are immersed in a culture that exalts these achievements, directly associating them with the concept of happiness and fulfillment. In many cases, this is the path we follow without question. From childhood, we are shaped by the expectation that our life will be a climb, in which victories and external trophies are the milestones that indicate that we are on the right path. Conquering the first mountain is the great goal of many people because it represents the arrival. When we reach the top of the first mountain, we believe that we have reached the pinnacle of our existence. The job of our dreams, our own home, family, social status, and financial freedom are the elements that assure us that everything is in the right place. However, the view we have from the top of the first mountain often fails to prepare us for the emptiness that can overwhelm us. Once we get there, David Brooks, in his writings on the subject, reveals an uncomfortable truth. Even when we reach all that society calls the top, we can still feel incomplete, unfulfilled, and empty. He notes that many people who achieve this perceived success can find themselves left with a sense of angst and disconnection, as if there is something missing, something that cannot be bought or earned through external achievement. For those who are climbing the first mountain, the top seems to be the answer to all their anxieties, and often what they find is a big surprise, because what is celebrated as success does not in fact lead to the deep fulfillment that many imagine. This emptiness is particularly disconcerting because many people base their lives around reaching that top. They believe that by reaching this level of success, they will finally feel happy, fulfilled, and fulfilled. They seek recognition from others and believe that external validation is what is needed to fill their lives with meaning. But when they get there, they realize that superficial success is not capable of generating the kind of emotional and spiritual satisfaction they expected. The crisis of existential emptiness that many feel upon reaching the first mountain is what often leads people to question their own values and purpose in life. Instead of feeling triumphant and complete, many find themselves in a state of bewilderment and even despair. This moment of questioning can be uncomfortable, but for those willing to face the situation head-on, it can be the starting point for something deeper. The desire to find a purpose that goes beyond external achievements. One of the reasons why this emptiness is so common after reaching the first mountain is that often the journey to reach the top is guided by extrinsic motivation, by what others expect of us, or what society tells us we should strive for. When we focus only on what is valued by the collective, we miss the opportunity to discover what is truly important to us. The search for external approval can lead us to follow a path that seems right to us. But that is not necessarily the path that will lead us to true satisfaction. This manifests itself in many ways. Professionals who reach high positions in their careers may find themselves deeply dissatisfied with what they have achieved. Executives in large companies may have seemingly perfect lives, but feel emotionally disconnected from their families or even from themselves. People who have abundant material goods may paradoxically feel lonely or without purpose, as if their achievements have been devoid of meaning. These are examples of how external success, without alignment with internal values, may be incapable of generating a real sense of fulfillment. This phenomenon is not only a personal issue, but also a cultural one. We live in a society that preaches that happiness is a consequence of material success, but that does not effectively teach what is necessary to achieve a deep sense of satisfaction in life. Most of us are educated to believe that the summit of the first mountain is the end of the journey, and not a transitory stage that, in fact, may be the beginning of something even deeper. The famous midlife crisis is often related to this emptiness experienced after conquering the first mountain. People begin to realize that what they have striven for decades has not brought them the fulfillment they had hoped for. When we reach a certain level of success, we are often confronted with the reality that our lives are missing something. What once seemed like the great purpose of life can begin to feel shallow and devoid of real meaning. But it is at this point of emptiness and discomfort that for many, the seed of a search for something deeper begins. This sense of disillusionment can become a turning point, where the individual finds themselves faced with the possibility of beginning a new journey, the climb to the second mountain. The first mountain teaches us much about what society values, but it is the second mountain that teaches us to pursue what truly matters, what is essential to our emotional, spiritual, and existential well-being. However, as David Brooks observes, many people never take the next step. They remain stuck at the top of the first mountain because the journey to the second mountain requires something much more challenging. It requires us to let go of external achievements and immerse ourselves in a process of self-discovery, a search for meaning that cannot be mediated by others, but only by ourselves. The second mountain demands the courage to embrace a new kind of life, one that is not defined by external expectations, but by our own deepest values. Ultimately, the emptiness of the first mountain is an invitation to re-evaluate our priorities and ask ourselves what truly gives meaning to our lives. If the top of the first mountain does not fulfill us, It is because the true meaning of life lies not in external achievements, but in a deeper, more internal journey, a journey that calls us to the second mountain. After reaching the top of the first mountain, many find themselves faced with an unexpected emptiness, a feeling that something is still missing. What once seemed to be the answer to all their anxieties now reveals itself to be a trap of dissatisfaction. It is at this point that the call of the second mountain arises, an invitation to a deeper journey, one that goes beyond external achievements and leads us to self-discovery and the true purpose of life. The second mountain is not about what the world tells us we should achieve, but about an inner transformation that causes us to rethink our priorities and often radically change the way we live. While the first mountain offers us the glories of material success, fame, and recognition, the second mountain calls us to a new kind of journey, one that demands humility, detachment, and a new vision of what really matters. David Brooks, in the book describes the second mountain as a path where the focus shifts from immediate personal satisfaction to the search for deeper, more lasting meaning. On this mountain, the motivation is no longer to accumulate wealth or status, but to cultivate human connection, service to others, and commitment to values that transcend the ego. The second, transforming the individual, has the power to alter the social fabric as a whole. What would happen if more people decided to take this step? Perhaps the emptiness that many feel after reaching the first mountain would be replaced by a deep sense of belonging, purpose, and connection. True transformation begins when we decide not just to reach the top, but when we understand that the most important path is the one that leads us to something greater than ourselves. Mountain. Furthermore, modern society is largely built around the ideals of the first mountain, the relentless pursuit of status, financial success, and visibility. The external pressure to maintain these standards of living is immense, and many fear being seen as failures or losers if they choose to follow a more introspective or value-focused path. In a world that values material possessions and visible achievements, it is difficult to justify a journey that seems less tangible, such as focusing on service to others or pursuing a simpler, more self-aware life. Another significant obstacle is what David Brooks describes as the selfishness of the first mountain. When someone is at the top of the first mountain, their motivation often comes from a personal desire for success and achievement. This selfishness can be a powerful force that keeps them from living a more altruistic or collectively beneficial life. The second mountain requires letting go of their ego, and in doing so, they also let go of immediate rewards. This shift in focus is challenging, as many people are unwilling to give up the validation they gain from being admired by others. Fear of facing their own vulnerability is also a factor that prevents many people from climbing the second mountain. The journey to inner transformation is not easy and involves confronting one's own flaws, insecurities, and limitations. It's much easier to maintain a facade of success where everything seems to be in order than to deal with the emotional difficulties that come with reaching for something deeper. Ultimately, many never reach the second mountain because they are not prepared for the hard work and introspection it requires. They remain comfortable on the first mountain, where standards and expectations are clear and where success is more tangible and easily recognized. True transformation requires the courage to break out of these expectations and face the unknown. For many, this leap is simply too great, and the fear of failure or losing what they have achieved at the top of the first mountain prevents them from taking this crucial step toward a more meaningful life. The collective journey. How the second mountain can transform society. Climbing the second mountain is not just a personal journey, it has the potential to transform society as a whole. As more people begin to walk the path of the second mountain, the impact goes beyond individual changes and can create a quiet revolution in the values that guide the collective. By adopting the principles of the second mountain, more people would focus on values such as empathy, generosity, and service to others, rather than continuing to be consumed by the insatiable pursuit of success and status. This shift in focus could result in a more balanced society, less focused on individualism and more concerned with the common good. The first mountain is characterized by a reward system that pits the individual against others, where one person's victory is often another's loss. In many cases, this model creates a culture of separation and selfishness, where people are constantly seeking ways to excel and reach the top, even if it means neglecting their relationships, their mental health, or the impact they have on others. However, the second mountain offers a radically different approach. Instead of competing, it invites us to collaborate, build networks of support, and connect more deeply with those around us. David Brooks argues that when more people turn to the second mountain, society tends to become more altruistic and collectively oriented. By cultivating values such as humility, compassion, and the desire to help rather than be admired, a movement of transformation can begin to emerge. Organizations and communities, by moving away from an excessive focus on profit and prestige, could create a more inclusive and supportive environment where individuals feel more connected to each other and a greater purpose. This shift could also be reflected in public policy, the way businesses operate, education, and family relationships. Imagine a society where, instead of teaching relentless competition, children are taught from an early age about the importance of collaboration, ethics, and service to others. This could drastically change the way people relate to each other, how they approach their challenges, and how they help each other. However, true collective transformation will only be possible if there is a genuine change in each individual. Climbing the second mountain begins with the personal decision to seek something more meaningful. When more people decide to embrace this path, society will be impacted, creating a cycle of generosity and meaning that spreads among those around them. The journey to the second mountain is not easy, nor is it quick. It requires courage, self-knowledge, and often the abandonment of previous certainties. But it is also a journey of growth, which by transforming the individual has the power to alter the social fabric as a whole. What would happen if more people decided to take this step? Perhaps the emptiness that many feel after reaching the first mountain would be replaced by a deep sense of belonging, purpose, and connection. True transformation begins when we decide not just to reach the top, but when we understand that the most important path is the one that leads us to something greater than ourselves.